Alright, so here in this video where we're going to actually take what we have scripted up and all these controls that we have, we're actually going to make them work. Now before we move on, there's a couple of things that I just want to kind of verify that we have done, because my Max files actually crashed on me a couple of times trying to do these videos. So I just want to just verify that there's some things that are the same with everybody's files. So first thing being, I want to go into my left view and wireframe and make sure that our feet are basically on the same direction, the same angles, that there's nothing like out of place with it, that everything seems to be lined up pretty well. Pretty flat along the ground. Our IKs are pretty much in the same place. Same with our dummies. Everything's lined up there. I want to verify that the actual IK solvers here on the toes, that we did switch them to IK goal from start joint over to IK goal. Just verifying that those changes have been made. Verify that the actual IK goal itself has been linked to the toe helper for both. And just want to verify that when we do our rotations that we get the right motion, especially the upward motion, since that's the way it's going to be going. Verify that our banking for our legs are going the right way for both feet. These things are very important that you run through and just kind of double check and ensure that everything is going to be moving the right way when we start doing these rotations. So once you've gone through and you've done that, that's my rotate is with gimbal on. Just want to kind of double check and make sure all your objects, all your helpers, that everything is set to see, like this guy's got a little bit a non-zero rotation. Just want to make sure that once we're positive that everything's lined up the way that we want it to be lined up, which it is at the moment, and everything's linked the way that it is, we want to make sure that everything gets a zeroed out rotation. So we select everything in the scene and Alt and do our freeze rotations, and we'll see now that these guys are zeroed out completely, which is what we want. A nice good starting position for all of our objects. Things got our zeros. It's really important when you're doing these rigging that this is the case. Just like if you make an adjustment, that you undo to put it back at 0. Alright, so once we have that, I'm going to go ahead and do a save as, and I'm going to save it as an increment. And now we can get started with the reaction manager and getting these guys actually working. So hold Alt and right click and go to reaction manager. And since I've already done a tutorial on how to use this, I'm just going to start rolling right through this. So add a master from the foot control, and the first one's obviously banking, and our banking is going to be basically when we select on the foot and we bank it, take the slider this way, this guy's going to rotate like that, and when we take the banking into the positive direction, then this one's going to rotate. So that's what we're going to be doing. So it's these two. I can see that's a negative Z rotation, and that's a positive Z rotation. So I'll select both of them and add the keyframe Z rotation. So the start value, since I had it moved up to 1, you can see the first value is value of 1. So I'll just make sure that's 0. So state 1 should be all zeros. Okay, and we take it to -1 to create state. So when it's at -1, this guy, which is the right one, is going to get a -45. Nope, positive 45. So positive 45 on that guy. And when it goes into the positive one, the left is going to get a -45, like so. Okay. And I'm gonna I'll just save it there. Okay, so moving on, add the master, move on to the roll up. Now the roll up is going to be this guy on the X rotation and this one on the X rotation. So I'll go ahead and select both of them, and it's going to be the X rotation. Okay, and this guy at 0 is going to be here, and then when it gets halfway, so 0.5, create a state at 0.5, and the ball of the toe is going to rotate up 45. Okay, and then when it gets to 1, create another state. And this time I'm going to just double click in here and type 0 to get the ball of the foot back down. And the toe, I'm going to put in like a 60. And then I'm going to, for the ball, I'm going to put in like a 20, just to push it a little bit more. So we can see. And what I could do is we see that this guy here has a very sharp curve. We could right click and set this to Bezier smooth, and now we'll see that when we roll it up that it rolls a little smoother. And we could do the same thing here if we really wanted to set that to a Bezier smooth. So now it's smoothly, and we could obviously tweak these as much as we want, but I think that I'm going to set it back to corner and then set it back to smooth. I think that looks pretty good, like that. So there's the roll up. Add the toe spin, and the toe spin is going to be this guy rotating on the y-axis. So yeah, that's it. This guy rotating on the y-axis, so we'll add the, and I know this is going off screen for you guys. So rotation and Y rotation. So this is going to be going to the left and to the right. So we have this back up. So 0 there, and when the spin toes this way, this guy is going to go this direction, so that's a positive direction. So positive 45, spin toes over here, create it, and negative 45. So spin toes. Moving on to spin heel. Heel spin. And the heel spin is going to be this guy rotating on the Z axis. So let's move this over here. Rotation, Z rotation. Again, when this goes here, this is going to go, so that's the negative direction, so negative 45. And over here, create positive 45. Okay, raise toes is going to be X rotation with this guy here. So we'll go ahead and do the, which is heel up, and it's the X rotation. And this one is just 0 to 1, so when it gets here, this guy is going to go negative 45. Okay, and I'm going to skip tweak toes for a second and go right to swivel knees, just because this is where it keeps crashing on me, and I want to try to get this out before we get to this point. So we're going to go right to the swivel on this next one. So we'll skip down to swivel, and it is going to be this object's, so we got a rotation and the swivel angle right here. So basically we're going to take it in like 50 degrees and then like another positive 50 degrees or so. So that's what we're going to do. So it's going to be add the swivel angle. And again, it's when this guy is over here, create the swivel angle, and let's see which direction it needs to be. So we'll say positive 45 and create, and we'll say negative 45. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to save this file because this is where it wants to crash on me every time. So going to try to not crash this thing. This is what we want to have for the tweak knees. Okay, so let's go ahead and add foot controls, the tweak, and I'm sorry for the tweak toes, and it's this guy's Z position up and down that we want to monitor. Okay, so this guy's IK goal Z position. Okay, now what should happen is I should be able to test this, and I can see that that's not working So I'm going to get rid of this state. I'm going to close Reaction Manager. So this is where it crashes every time. It's the wrong one. I'm going to put that back to being in the center. So it's not the Z, even though that's what it's telling us. I'm going to go with Y, since when we said Z, it was basically going on to Y, so I'm going to flip these two. So let's go back to Reaction Manager, and we'll come back, and it's not going to be the Z. I'm going to add this guy's Y position, and we'll get rid of this first state. So when it's at 0, so you see it's going up and down. So we'll set this back to 0. Okay. And tweak toes when it goes into the negative. Create a state. This guy's going to go down. And let's say -12. It's a pretty good down amount. And tweak toes when it goes up. It's going to be +12. And we can close that. And let's see what we have. So we've got our banking. Can roll up, spin on the toes, spin on the heels, raise, tweak the toes, and swivel the knees. So we have really good foot controls for our character. Now all we got to do is, all you have to do is go through and do the same thing for the other foot. I'm going to skip that and try to move on to the next one since we've got some time left. So we do the same thing for the other foot, and you'll be good to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create the last bit of the rig, which is the controls for the eyes. So I'm going to go into my front view, and I'm going to create a rectangle. And what I want to do actually first is I want to the first rectangle that I make, I actually want to be the size of the eyes of the character. So I'm going to pull this out in front of him, so when I go to my front view I can actually see this thing. Let's go to view. Okay, so it's like it's centered up with the face. I'll pull this down and I'll pull this in like so. So that is the extent of his eyes. So make me a circle, and I'm going to now link the circle to the rectangle. And now when I select on my circle, we see that it's way back here. But when I select on it and go to parent, we see that down here these coordinates represent the X, Y, and Z position in relationship to the parent. So if I right click and set all these back to 0, it's now lined up perfectly with the parent. And now I'm going to Alt A. I'm going to align this guy not on the X, not on the Z, but just on the Y to, oops, so I don't want to do the rotation, so just the Y and no rotations. Okay, so now it's centered up with the eye and centered up with the head. Okay, so we've got this guy. So when this moves, okay, it's going to control the eyes. But what we want to do is we want to have this locked to the face, or this guy locked to the rectangle. And we're going to do that by doing a basically a limit controller on the position of this circle. So we'll go ahead and get this set up real quick. It's actually pretty easy. So we're going to go to our motion panel and we're going to assign a controller, and it's basically going to be the X and the Y position that we're going to be dealing with. So I'll open up position, the X position, and I'll come to assign controller, and we're going to do a float limit. Okay, and we'll just show you the concept here, what we're doing. We see that the width here is 27. I'm going to go ahead and set this to 25, and the length here I'll set to 10. Okay, so the length obviously is the up and down, which is the Y axis, and the width is the X axis. So on any of our numerical spinners we can input, if we select it and hit Control N, it opens up a numerical expression evaluator. So basically what we can do is, basically what I'm going to do is show you what this looks like. So this guy's at 0 position, right? So I know that up and down is the Y, okay, but we want to figure out what the side to side is. Well, what's half of 25? That would be, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here and go Control N, and what I'm going to do is say 25 divided by 2 and put paste. And now obviously the lower limit is going to be the same but negative, so we'll say 12.5, and now we see that I can't move this past there. So I'll do the same thing, close this. I'll do the same thing for the Y position, so we'll do a limit controller, and again it's 10, so obviously 5 and negative 5 means that this guy can't go. So we now have it constrained to our rectangle, but what we want is we want to be able to have this adjust and be limited based on any dimension that we use for the width and the height. And so with that, we're going to go into our curve editor, and I'm going to scroll down here to our circle, and we see that we've got the X position, and we have the upper and the lower limit. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm going to, let's reset this guy real quick. I'm going to right click and I'm going to wire the positions, X position, and let me try to do this so it stays on screen. So wire parameters, the position, X position, limits, upper limit. It's going to be limited to the rectangle, to the width, because the width is the X. Okay, so now it opens up our parameter wiring. So the width of the rectangle is going to control the upper limit. So we hit that and we hit connect. Now the expression is, since it's in the center, it needs to be the width divided by 2, update. So you see that it's still doing that, but if I come in here and adjust the width, we see that it's popping on here. It's not doing the other side yet, but that's fine. Get this guy centered back up. So now the width is also going to drive the lower limit. So width is going to drive the lower limit as well. So I hit that, hit connect, and it's going to be the width divided by 2 again, but it needs to be negative, so we throw a minus sign in front of it, update, and we see that we're back to where we were. But this time, if we make it bigger, see that it's popping there. And if we make it smaller, we see it pulls it in. So we have those set up quite nicely. So now we're going to do the same thing for the Y. So move this over here so we can see it. So we're going to wire the Y positions limit, upper limit, to the rectangle's length. So again, the length is going to drive the upper limit, so one-way connection. Connect it, and it's the length divided by 2. Update, and the length is also going to drive the lower limit, so we connect, and it's length divided by 2, and we put a minus sign. Update, so we see that that is working to our advantage, and of course it's also going to react to it. So if we take it like this and we pull in, say, the width, we'll set the width to, there you go. So now we've got a slider that can go only up and down. And if we were to flip that, now we've got a slider that can only go left and right. So it was 25 and 10. And the great thing about this setup, now that we have it, and we're going to go ahead and save, is that we can copy these, and they're going to keep responding the right way. So this one we're actually going to be using and let's put a little enable and viewport on this puppy. Do it on both of these. And I guess we'll throw it on this guy too. Just so it's easy for us to see. Alright. Now, I'm just going to raise that up. And again, we zero it out. It pops back to the center of this guy. So I'm going to move this over and make a copy, because these are going to be the controls for the blinking of the eyes. Down, make it blink, and up will make his eyes get bigger. So this will be the control for where his eyes, how his eyes look, and we can go ahead and set that up real quick. So it's going to be the way that the eyes get rotated. I'm going to go in here, and we see that the our eyes, their rotations are centered here, so we want them to be centered with the object. So I'm going to go effect pivot only, and we'll just put this on local. So we see that it pops there. Just another little bug apparently. So I'll just, if we didn't have it there, see it pops here now. We just move the pivot to this point, and that's why the top view is good, because we can actually see what that center point for the circle is. So when we take a look at our guy here, when it rotates on the Z, it's going to go side to side, and X is up and down. So when this guy moves on the X, it's going to drive the Z rotation of this. So again, we'll go into our reaction manager, right click, reaction manager, and we got another master right here. So his X position, and I'm going to do this so we can see it, is, oops, this guy's X position. We don't want to come in here and pick these. We want to use just the limited controller, so it's always finding the limits. So the limited controller of this guy, and since we did it on the X, it's obviously we're monitoring the X, and it's now going to drive this guy's Z rotation. So make sure we're down here. So this object's Z rotation. Okay, so again, come over here and say when this is all the way over this way, we create a state, and I'm going to do this in the front view just so I don't want it to go past that point, so over there, so let's just say -17, and when it gets to this side, create a state, and we'll just say 17. Okay, so now we put this back parent, center that up. So again, when this goes up on the Y, it is going to be this guy's X rotation. So again, add the master, position, Y positions, limited controller, and it's going to be our currently selected object's X rotation. And when this guy is up here, eyes are going to be rotated about there, and when it's down here, the eyes are going to be down there. There we go. So we have, I'll go ahead and save. So we have the eye control rigged up, so the directionals for his eyes. The last thing is going to be to make morph targets and then wire those up, but we're going to do that one in the next tutorial where we wrap up everything else and write some more code just to give us few more parameters that we can play with. But we're almost done. We're on the home stretch now, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of all of this. It's definitely a fun way to animate when you have these kind of controls that you can play around with and reset and everything, and now the ability to very intuitively animate his eyes. So anyway, stick with me for one more video tutorial and we'll have this guy rigged up and ready to roll. So see you next time.